And we are live. You are watching Innovation Fika with me, Donny, here Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. on LinkedIn and YouTube. Actually, this isn't 2:30 p.m. This is actually a recording of the live broadcast that you're hopefully watching now, because I am not in Sweden on Wednesday afternoon, 2:30 p.m. I'm traveling. So I was fortunate enough to be able to get this week's guest to come to record this episode. However, make note that our guest today is actually live online. So all questions and comments you have during the Innovation Fika, please ask them as usual. And Sophie has promised to follow the thread and answer all the questions you might have. With that, I'll just say my name is Donny. Every Wednesday, I go live with my Innovation Fika, my Innovation Coffee Break. Fika, of course, meaning coffee break in Swedish, with a short interview, 30 minutes, the world's fastest half an hour, with a guest, interesting people about interesting ideas, and always some really interesting key learnings. All the recordings are on YouTube, so you can find, after this week, you'll find 127 episodes on YouTube. And all of my writings, I write weekly, not daily anymore, but weekly, are on LinkedIn and also on my Medium page, Donny S. Chiligonis. You can follow me on Medium as well. With that, enough about me, and so happy to introduce our guest for today, Sofi Elfving. Welcome to the studio. Welcome to Innovation Fika. And I will ask you the same thing as I ask all of my guests. Sophie, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, who am I? That's always an interesting question, how you answer that. But well, as you heard, Sophie, right now I'm a founder and a CEO of a company called Substorm, working with applied AI and data-driven journeys for companies, trying to kind of bring the value and effects of AI and machine learning to Swedish industry, basically. So that's what I'm kind of spending my time on right now, besides being a mom of two and juggling with all the stuff that you do and so on. But basically, that's why I'm here today. And especially as when I started Substorm, it was on kind of a promise that we should be an inclusive and equal company, and a company that I myself would have liked to work in for my entire career, basically.
That's really interesting, because that was one of my first questions was, did you have the motivation to start a company that worked with inclusion and equality and then say, let's figure out what we're going to do? Or did you have, I'm going to start an AI company and it's going to be inclusive and equal?
Oh, I have like these two areas that have been kind of having a really kind of, that's what's very close to my heart. And during like my career, I did my PhD like 20 years ago almost, and all since then I've been, of course, I'm a tech nerd, but I don't code any longer. I kind of left that to the really good coders. But I've always been a tech nerd, basically, and that's my background. Been working in telecoms for almost 15 years, and all during this journey and this time, from university to my professional career, I've been so kind of interested in this equality, inclusive, like topics, because I've experienced that.
I was going to say, you've probably seen your fair share of non-inclusive and not equal.
Yeah, all the time. And when I start like I think during my PhD, when I really kind of start to dig in around the why. Why do I feel this? Why does this happen? And how can I relate to it? And how can I manage it? Because you have to manage it, basically, as a woman in tech. So I've been working with like the inclusive and equality, like in parallel with this like super tech stuff. Now I've been kind of, automation has always been both the hardware automation, robotics, but also like AI and machine learning. What can you do? What type of smart automation can you do with that? And that has kind of followed me through my career. And then I decided I was a little bit fed up on this large company career, basically. And I decided approximately 7-8 years ago that I want to build the company that I really, really like to work with, and I wanted to be focused on inclusiveness and equality, and also prove that it's possible to do that.
Yeah, and that must be one of the best things. When I hear founders like yourself say, I want to start a company where I would want to work myself, especially if you have experienced other places where either the leadership or we talked about equality, inclusion, or whatever it could be, hasn't been sort of up to par. I'll just say I have to get you on another episode when we actually focus on what Substorm does and talk about automation and AI, because that is super interesting as such. But that's not our topic for today.
No.
We'll come back to that in episode, what could it be, 142 or something like that, with Sofi Elfving. But coming back then to the main topic of today is, inclusion and equality in the tech sector, tech business.
Yeah.
I mean, so the easy questions are not easy questions. The simple questions with no easy answers. But why is it so? Why is it the way it is?
Oh, the why. That's like we can discuss that for. Of course, it's structure. We have a history. Of course, we have learned to function in a certain way, to build companies and operate companies in a certain way. What leadership is, what it's not, what is strength, what is weaknesses, and so on. And of course, we need to unlearn that to actually really see the effect of inclusiveness and equality. And then I don't only mean like, oh, it's women and men. It's about ethnicity and other areas,
definitely.
Everything. And for me, it has been, of course, a struggle. On the other side, that's my normal, basically. But it has been a struggle, and what I can see that it's getting better.
Yeah.
But it's really slow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can see that during COVID, it actually took a step back.
It did.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
okay.
So that's kind of so the answering the question, why does it look like this? Well, history and how it has been.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of change that, and we need to increase the pace a little bit and get more action, I think.
I could, of course, as you said, we can talk about this for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But why? And this is me as a guy asking all of the other guys out there, because then I'm doing only the male-female thing and the tech thing to start with. We can do the other parts as well. Why do guys think that they sort of own tech? And why are they so damn threatened by women who know tech?
That's a very good question.
I don't get it.
Yeah. But that's what you kind of learn already when in preschool.
Yeah.
Basically, you get the techie toys to.
They give the blue boys to the guys. And,
and not everybody, of course, but when I got my 2 children, basically, I was like, no, I will not be influenced by this, and it's 2 girls. And I found it so hard not to be influenced. And if you kind of manage that at home, then you go to school, and then still they come home and like, no, I can't play with this, or I can play football and so on, because it's the guys, and it's just out there, and it's very like, it's not tangible. And you need to work so hard with that. So you learn from the beginning, and then it's up to kind of the parents and also the structure around to tell both all children, both male and female, that it's like, you can do whatever you like, what you're good at.
I'll actually take that one step further, and I'll say, as a disclaimer, I'll say that I'm not sort of saying, the whole, because I have friends who have children with both genders, and like they've tried to not influence the girls, and they've come home in princess dresses anyway, and they've tried to not influence the boys, and they've come home and with handyman tools and things like that. So I'm not trying to say what I'm saying is the same thing you're saying. I'm saying that whatever suits your kids is good for your kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's depend. They're their own people, and they
Mm.
have to be able. They are have to be allowed to become their own people.
Yeah.
But how do you then work in a moving up to the sort of the business perspective
Yeah.
of it? How do you work? Do you work with other companies as well and help them with this, or are you focused on your company and working with that sort of?
Of course, always start from the inside.
Yeah.
Work with what you do and actually internally to do that. But like as you're getting better and that you prove that it's actually doable. Because I've heard so many times, especially in the beginning, that when we said like, well, first of all, we should be 50-50 men and women, and then we should kind of look at the inclusiveness on all the levels. And a lot of people came up to me and like, it's not doable. Why do you do it?
What? Not doable? Not
it's
doable?
like,
How? Not doable?
Why is it? No, it's not. And there, it's so many truths behind it, or given truths, basically.
I'm so
That
tired.
why do you do it? Why do you even care? It will fail and so on. And then you need kind of stand
Yeah.
tall, and then you team up with other.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what we did. Team up with other companies, other universities, other individuals that has kind of worked with this also.
Yeah.
So you get the community, you get the network, and you feel you can actually do it, and you get the tips and tricks, and you start to learn, because it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to say we should be kind of an equal company. It's so difficult to do, and it takes time to actually do it. And it's all about culture, basically.
Yeah.
It begins with culture and it ends with culture. And it's not only about like recruiting. It starts like with the kids,
Yeah.
and the school, and the university, your first job, and how to prepare to actually kind of get the more balanced like inflow of candidates, and then keep them happy, work with the culture, and make them be part of building that culture and building that company as well.
We actually touched on this subject in a previous episode with Poonam. We were talking about investors and also females in investing and on boards, and it's same here at KTH Innovation. We've worked a lot with equality and inclusion as well. Much due to that, we looked at our numbers and they weren't very good.
Yep.
So we decided to do something about it. But instead of, as you said, instead of just running a campaign and saying, "Hey, we need more girls," it was like, okay, but why is it like this? What structure are we sort of on? Because there's a whole sort of pyramid of underlying structures that leads up to where you are. And I think that one thing that I say this in a provocative manner, but I mean it as well, that when companies say, "Oh, well, you know, we tried to get more female board members, but we couldn't find anybody competent." I say, well, then you haven't looked hard enough.
No,
because if you only look at the upper layer, you'll only see what is there today, and you haven't given the ones that are there fully competent, haven't given them the chance. So I think I really like that you also see the bigger perspective of it, because we need to see what we call it the pyramid or whatever leads up to it. We need to work with that. If we're going to have a result in the future that's different from today, we need to work with what we have to move it into the future.
And I usually say like, like the reflection that, okay, it's only like, if we take the example of male, female, it's only like 10 to 20% females in this area. So it's basically not doable, or we keep it in that ratio within the company. And I'm like, well, but then you should go to have all those 10 to 20% in your company.
Exactly.
And kind of, you have to create like a need somewhere else. And that someone else is like, oh, we're like, everybody went here. So we need to kind of create the need from like, and push down the kind of the phase, like all the way to university and the schools as well. So we can actually like have a pull effect that we need more. This is interesting. And of course, work with role models. That's so important, because that's what I see. That's if you look at my children, of course, my children knows what robotics and AI is, and talk about that in school, because mom is working with that. And if you go to our company, then it's like, yeah, we have a female CEO and a founder. and she has a PhD as
Mhm.
well. Oh, maybe I can do that. Yes, come
Exactly.
on, go ahead, of course.
Exactly.
In the end, you should start your own company as well. That's kind of, if you manage to have your employees and make them grow and outgrow you,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. So you need to have role models on all the levels.
But that's two very important things that you said there. One was the thing with role models, which we've seen very strongly here as well. When we did our actually a 2-3 year effort on trying to change the numbers, it was a lot about, okay, well, how are we going to be able to attract, in this case, more female entrepreneurs or females wanting to become entrepreneurs, if they don't see other females being entrepreneurs? There's no identification. So we have to work with champions and role models. You have to show the examples. Super important. And then, I mean, and that in itself is a huge thing. And then, what was the other thing you said? You said role models, and there was one more thing you said. Oh, damn it, I forgot it. But
what did I say?
Yeah, what did you say? Talked about role models, and then it was about, anyway.
Yeah.
It,
Like,
it was two things. It was two things. You watching, you probably can hear me hear what you said. The second thing, it was equally important. Definitely. Okay, so then we have, but it sounds like a big undertaking, the whole thing. And do you often encounter that people get like, aha moments? Okay, I have no idea. Oh, is it like that? Or, do they live in some kind of a, do we always,
yeah. The kind of the goal is always like, my experience is that when I finally took the glasses on and saw the structure and the why, it kind of hurt me, because it's like, it shouldn't be like this.
No.
Why am I actually pushing for this? Because this is a tough journey, basically. But you need to put the glasses on and have a different lens on, or a different like mental model. Basically, what is the reality, and how does it look from the other perspective? If you're not in the norm of tech, how does the kind of tech business look like if you're standing outside, if like you see it as a norm circle or something like that? Yeah. How does it look from that perspective? And when you start to see that, then it's like, wow. And then when you start to work with other companies or colleagues, and they start to see that too, and their eyes are really like, wow. Then they come back and thank me, basically, or thank us. Okay, this was really like, it's difficult. I will not do the right thing all the time, but now I see the patterns, and I would try to be a better employer or leader, and so on. So that's, of course, and that's an important part as well. It's like, it will be scary. And I see a lot of like companies like, oh, it's like, it's so scary that they don't even do anything, because someone can point at them and say, you said you should do it, but you failed. So it's a little bit like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. Yeah. And that, of course, I can feel myself, that okay, we're going out now talking about this here, and sometimes we fail too and make mistake. But it's important to be transparent about it, and that's really scary, because you need to show vulnerability, basically, and that is something you have to learn and be kind of.
But the thing is, scary only but scary means you are not in your comfort zone. Scary means you're trying to do something that you didn't do before. Scary means that, yes, you'll try something, it might not work, but in any change, heck, I work with innovation. That's built into the creation, is that you do experiments until you find a result that is, what you want. And then up until then, you have a number of, I don't even call them failures. It's trials, experiments. And I think that what you mentioned is, I see this, I compare it to the whole sort of daring to try new things mentality as well in companies, where companies are so afraid of failing that they don't even try.
Exactly.
Because what if it doesn't work?
Mm.
And I'm going, yeah, well, then you'll probably learn something, and then you
Mm.
can do it better next time, and then you might be able to do it next time. No, better we don't do it then, because it might not work.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, then you're never going to release any new products ever again. And that's why
Mm.
large companies always, the innovation dilemma, they always release super safe bets, and they
Yeah.
never dare do anything scary because it might fail.
Mm.
And I hear you, sort of the same kind of mentality resonating
Yeah.
here as well
Exactly.
when it comes to try. So what can we try though? If you were working with or starting in, not a new company, but if you came to work at a company and I told you, let's fix this,
Yeah.
where would we start? What do we do? How do we do it?
Yeah, I would start with the culture, and that's what we're working
Yeah.
with a lot, like involving the employees,
Mm.
your co-workers, and actually starting to be transparent and dare to pinpoint and give the word to the employees, and like create a trust, so they can
Yeah.
actually say that, well, this is situation where I don't feel comfortable. Maybe it's jargon, or maybe it's something else that is like, that didn't make me feel comfortable. It kind of might have been super fun for everybody else, but that, and try to create that openness, and that's kind of then also kind of start to communicate around it, dare to communicate around that, build that trust, to be able to kind of highlight what works, what doesn't work. So very concrete activities around that, and also have the discussion that we have done, like in several times, basically discuss the norm of tech. What's the norm of tech? What do you think? Are you inside that norm or outside that norm? What is that? It's like small activities, like team activities, that often becomes super good, and the dialogue becomes so nice, because then you start to kind of create a culture, create the openness, and that will kind of spill over. So when you're recruiting, you also know what type of people do we kind of want. I say that, do we actually want to complete the culture? Because if they can't buy into female CEO, it will be extremely difficult to work in Substorm, for instance.
Of course.
And that is the case sometimes. That's not. And if you can't buy into the openness and talk about stuff that is really personal, because they are not private, but it's personal, then it becomes difficult. Then you get like, so then you start to kind of let that spill over to the external, like what you're doing, you're starting recruit and so on. But it's like all the time, it's a circle. It's working with the culture, communicate, create ambassadors you want for the company. And then, of course, someone new comes in and that culture changes, or someone leaves,
Of course.
because people do, and
dynamics always change.
So you can't do one thing and like, now we're finished. It's like you need to kind of build that in for it to be something that is just in your DNA.
I think that is really, really important, because again, two things. I have to remember both of them now. No, well, they were both about the language. One is about the you talked about the jargon, and one is about how it both, if you have a very male dominated workplace or a very female dominated workplace, you can have equally skewed jargon on both places. And I think that it's really, really important to be able to put your finger on the words we use and the language we use and how we talk about things and how we talk about each other. And that leads me to the second thing, which is then there has to be an ongoing dialogue, just what you said as well. It's not something you build once, we're 50-50, green check mark in that box, and then what's our next project? It's an ongoing thing. And I think that the ongoing dialogue of not just equality and inclusion, but the ongoing dialogue between the people about their job and their workplace and how they feel and what works and what doesn't. I think that if you don't have a dialogue, in a workplace where people can't openly talk to each other. I think that's a key sort of success or failure factor.
Yeah. And that's also interesting, like now post-COVID,
Yeah.
basically, because we started just before COVID, and then we
Yeah.
got straight into the this phase of everything happening digital. We had a lot of discussion, how could we build a culture, how can we kind of communicate, and we still have that because we're very distributed as we are right now. That's the consequences of growing a company during COVID. So you need to have all the means there, like the coffee machines, of course, and do the fika, but also online fika. And sometimes you bring all the people in to the Stockholm office or to the Luleå office and have the discussions there. But sometimes it's over Slack, and sometimes just to kind of keep that going, and you need to nurture that all the time so it doesn't stop. That's super important.
Then, of course, when you've not mastered, but when you've come to a point within the company that you feel this is okay, we're heading in the right direction, then of course you have customers and suppliers, and then they have to sort of be on board with meeting different kinds of people as well.
Yeah.
It's like meeting some people have a problem meeting a male nurse in a hospital, because a nurse is supposed to be a nurse. When I was a kid, they were females with small hats and that kind of thing. And meeting a super expert AI automation expert person who then happens to be female, I can just imagine can also be hard sometimes for some companies.
Yeah, it could be very challenging for some, I would say.
I tried to put that in a nice way there.
Yeah. It can. Most have no problem, basically, but of course you need to have a very long track record to be able to be listened to from the beginning, basically. And of course I've learned that over time, but I also want my all the female employees out there to get the same respect,
of course,
although they don't have 20 years back of experience. And also when we say, as we have like 7 nationalities and we're still a small company, we can see, of course, some customer don't want non-Swedish speaking people, and that's an issue because we're losing out on competence in Sweden, or Swedish companies losing out on competence. Of course, there can be reasons for that, but that's not always the case. And depending on the customer or the lead, I usually bring that up with them. That this is a problem. That you want this type of person instead of this just because of the language. Yeah.
I'm looking at the time here. It's like the world's fastest half an hour. Swish. And I'm not going to let you leave without you giving us your top 3 tips as well. So at the end of the show, everybody, our guests always give us their top 3 tips of how to work with the subject that we've been talking about today. The subject with Sofi Elfving is about inclusion and equality in the tech sector. So Sofi Elfving, top 3 tips, starting with change your mental wiring.
Yes, I think we have talked about this, but it's basically to put other lenses on and change the mental wiring on how to operate a company based on like old principles and structure. So you need really to be out there and try stuff that you haven't tried before and look at it from another perspective, because you need to take another perspective on this and do it hands-on, actions hands-on.
Very good. And I have a very, very small comment on that as well. Is once you've been to a company or worked at a company which is diverse, where you have both inclusion and equality, and there's a diversity in the room, and then you go to like a traditional company, then it's like sort of, what is this? Then that's the strange one. If you've actually been in a place where you have a better diversity going on. So change your mental wiring. And tip number 2.
Yes.
Question given truths and be brave.
There's a lot of given truth. We touched upon that it's not doable, or it's only 10 to 20% females in the tech, so we can't have all of them. Take all of them and let the kind of gap be somewhere else. And there's a lot of this kind of truth that is like you hear also in media or in the business as such. Try to question them. Is this really truth? Or could I actually do it in another way? And can I be brave enough just to do the opposite? And that's like, you need to be like a little bit weird, of course, to do it, because you need to challenge everybody, and people will like, oh, you're difficult.
Yeah, I know.
Basically.
I know. But I know that because I've always been the difficult one.
Yeah.
Always. So I completely second that. And I love the part of, instead of having the people who don't get in, having them to push. If you take the 10% that are there, you actually create a pull.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then you open up for the new ones coming in, and it will actually, so go, everyone out there, make sure to pull diversity into your companies, which will create a more diverse pool of people to employ in the next rounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. It sounds so easy when you say it.
Yeah.
Tip number 3, better try and fail than not try at all.
That we have talked about already, but that's super important to actually try. Don't be afraid. Of course you can be afraid, but still do it. And if you do it, have a safe space to try it with. Have like, create a network of people that has tried it before, and bring in help if needed. Bring in external help. There's a lot of external help, or like models and tools and methods that you can actually use, and get some nice support around that. And then you feel a little bit more safe, and then try it, and then you keep on going, small step at a time.
I will give Sophie a lot of credit for her courage. Because, as you know, the definition of courage is not doing things and not caring about it, or doing things that you're not scared about. Courage is being really scared and doing it anyway because it has to be done.
Yeah,
that is all. And I'd say that you really personified that a lot. Thank you so much for coming here today. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm looking forward to our next episode, when we're going to talk about automation and AI and all of the in-depth tech stuff. I always enjoy meeting a fellow tech nerd.
Yeah, good. Me too. Yeah, no, I really appreciate this.
And everyone online, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you've asked lots of questions in the feed. Make sure to connect as well on LinkedIn with Sophie, and check out Substorm, super cool company that are doing super cool things. And with that, I will say thank you everyone for today. Thank you, Sophie, today. I'll see you next week, 2:30 p.m. Wednesday afternoon, Innovation Fika. You know where to find us, LinkedIn and YouTube. Bye for now.